I stood there speechless, watching 30 houses rapidly appear on my land, and then she showed up, radiating arrogance, threats, and absolute confidence, as if I were the trespasser and she had complete control over every inch. She had not only seized the land, but had constructed an unlawful empire, using deception to paint me as the villain in the community's eyes. But I had not arrived to plead. I was there to reclaim what was rightfully mine. If she believed she could hide everything behind fear and false authority, she was about to experience a nightmare of her own creation. Tonight, when the lights came on, I would expose her true colors and turn the situation around. My name is Michael Mitchell, and at 45 years old, I thought I had witnessed every kind of construction scam out there during my 20 years as a city building inspector, but nothing ever prepared me for fraud of this scale. I retired early last year to care for my elderly father, and when he died 3 months ago, I inherited a 5-hectare piece of land that had been in our family since my grandfather bought it as undeveloped farmland in the 1950s. Meanwhile, Jennifer Morrison, 52 years old and self-proclaimed queen of Sunset Hills, had spent 8 years running the Homeowners Association like a personal empire, genuinely believing she was safeguarding property values, but actually orchestrating the largest real estate fraud I had ever seen in my career. The first wave of attacks came within 24 hours of our initial confrontation, and Jennifer's. The plan was as predictable as it was cruel. Jennifer immediately sent a group text to every one of the 30 families in her neighborhood, painting me as a dangerous scammer trying to seize homes from grieving relatives. The message contained my full name, a picture she had taken during our encounter, and a completely fabricated tale about how I exploited recent family losses to file false property claims. What made this especially disturbing was that Jennifer was projecting her own misdeeds onto me. She was the one who had been stealing from families, yet she was skillful at twisting the story to portray herself as the protector. By the second day, the psychological assault intensified with the arrival of official-looking legal documents. I discovered a certified letter in my mailbox from Morrison Legal Services, which turned out to be Andrew, Jennifer's husband, who had some legal education, but was not licensed to practice law in our state. The letter threatened to sue me for criminal trespass, attempted theft of communal property, and intentionally causing emotional distress to 30 innocent families. The wording was deliberately frightening, filled with legal terminology meant to intimidate someone who lacked knowledge. However, after 2 decades dealing with permit fraud and construction scams, I immediately saw through the bluff. Jennifer was counting on me being a confused old man who would retreat when confronted with seemingly official paperwork. The third wave struck me suddenly. Michael's standing in the community was strong, but this is where Jennifer revealed her true skill in manipulation. She arranged what she called a community safety meeting at the neighborhood center, complete with professionally made flyers that portrayed me as a dangerous criminal. The flyer showed a blurry image of me on my own land, with the headline, "Protect Our Families from Land Seizure Schemes." Jennifer had somehow secured backing from 2 city council members who were unaware of the full details, giving false legitimacy to her deceit. During the meeting, she positioned herself as a courageous community leader defending vulnerable families from so-called cunning real estate predators preying on grieving property owners. In the following week, Jennifer launched her cruelest attack, aiming at my mental health and reputation. She began circulating rumors in the neighborhood that I was emotionally unstable from recent loss and posed a danger to the children. She persuaded 3 households to file police complaints, alleging I had been lurking around their homes, taking photos and making threatening gestures toward their kids. In reality, I was simply walking my own inherited property, using a tape measure and camera to record what had been constructed and where. Yet in Jennifer's distorted story, Routine property surveying became menacing stalking, and my careful documentation turned into a threat. The efforts transformed into criminal surveillance. The fifth and most destructive phase was her social media campaign, which revealed Jennifer's grasp of contemporary character assassination. She established a community page named Protect Sunset Hills Families and launched a coordinated assault on my reputation using emotional manipulation that could rival a seasoned political strategist. She shared pictures of children playing in the neighborhood, families having barbecues in their backyards, and elderly residents walking their dogs, paired with captions like, "How can we allow someone to ruin these innocent families' dreams for money?" Jennifer even initiated a petition, gathering more than 300 signatures from residents demanding that the city investigate Michael Mitchell's fraudulent accusations and safeguard our community from harassment. The breaking point arrived when Jennifer took things further, embracing what I can only call a siege mentality. She hired private security personnel to patrol what she referred to as community borders, installed surveillance cameras aimed directly at spots where I conducted property surveys, and placed no trespassing signs every 50 feet encircling the whole development. She began tracking me with her smartphone every time I appeared, live streaming what she described as documentation of ongoing harassment to her growing social media audience. Essentially, Jennifer transformed my family's land into a fortress, complete with armed guards and surveillance devices, all while continuing her relentless campaign. Portraying herself as the target of my assertive intimidation methods, I had spent 2 decades mastering the most effective approach to combat sophisticated fraud: patience, thorough documentation, and the right professional contacts. So, while Jennifer was busy portraying herself as a victim on social media, I was quietly preparing a federal case that would bring down her illegal operation like a fragile structure. My first call was to Michael Torres, a former colleague who had been promoted to chief building inspector for the county after I helped him uncover a major permit fraud scheme 3 years earlier. Michael owed me several favors from past cases where I assisted him in catching contractors who cut corners on everything from foundation work to electrical systems. He was eager to learn about 30 houses constructed without a single permit on file. Michael asked during our call, "Are you serious that someone built an entire subdivision without obtaining any permits?" This was not only a violation, but a coordinated conspiracy to defraud the city of permit fees and avoid safety inspections. Within 3 days, Michael's team completed a thorough survey of Sunset Hills and confirmed what I had long suspected. Not one building had an official permit approved by the city planning department. Somehow, Jennifer had managed to connect utilities, build roads, construct 30 homes, and install community infrastructure while completely sidestepping the legal oversight process. The purpose of this organization is to safeguard both developers and residents. The extent of the fraud became apparent when Michael's inquiry uncovered that Jennifer had been deliberately evading about $2 million in permit fees, environmental assessments, and safety inspections. This was far more than a simple administrative mistake or confusion within bureaucracy. It was an intentional and coordinated scheme to run an unlawful real estate development business. Every property in Sunset Hills breached building regulations, lacked necessary foundation checks, and had unauthorized connections to utilities without the county engineering department's consent. My next critical step was to reach out to Sarah Kim, a real estate lawyer who specializes in property fraud cases and had collaborated with me previously on matters involving illegal subdivisions and bogus property transactions. Sarah quickly grasped the criminal magnitude of Jennifer's actions when I laid out the facts, Michael. She said during our initial meeting that this woman had been operating a real estate development firm without legitimate authority to sell land. Each family had paid for land that she did not legally own. This was more than just trespassing. It involved wire fraud, mail fraud, and possibly racketeering if she utilized the postal service or interstate banking systems. The turning point in building my case was when Sarah's investigation revealed Jennifer's elaborate marketing campaign. For 8 years, Jennifer had been advertising and selling these lots illegally. Through professionally designed brochures, official contracts, and even a dedicated website that never disclosed the fact she did not truly own the land, she fabricated fake property surveys using high-quality templates. She forged utility easements that seemed to be authorized by county officials and created community bylaws resembling authentic homeowners association documents, but were actually Jennifer's personal rules without any legal backing. However, the biggest revelation came from a very unlikely source: Jennifer's own husband, Andrew Morris. As a licensed civil engineer running his own consulting company, Andrew had been observing his wife's scheme with increasing worry for the past 3 years, especially when she began asking him to approve engineering reports for projects that had never been properly surveyed, sanctioned, or examined by qualified experts. Once he fully grasped the extent of the scam and witnessed the harm it inflicted on innocent families who purchased homes in good faith, he quietly started collecting evidence, waiting for the right moment to reveal the truth and dismantle the entire operation. "I could not bear seeing her ruin these families," Andrew shared during a private meeting at a cafe across town. "These are decent people who saved their whole lives to buy what they believed were legitimate homes in a lawful community. Jennifer has been deceiving everyone, including me, about the legal aspects. I have the current status of this situation, including contracts, financial documents, and recorded conversations that clearly show Jennifer was fully aware of her actions." Against Andrew, the proof consists of bank statements indicating that Jennifer received between $80,000 and $120,000 for each lot, generating more than $3 million in income from land she did not legally own, all while telling her own husband that these funds were derived from HOA fees and community enhancement charges. The decisive moment arrived during an urgent HOA meeting convened by Jennifer to tackle ongoing intimidation by outsiders and safeguard our neighborhood from false legal claims. She reserved the largest space at the community center, hired a high-profile lawyer from downtown, and invited every household in Sunset Hills, along with representatives from 3 local news outlets. Jennifer was incredibly assured this event would mark her final victory. Presenting her case to residents and the media would paint Michael as a reckless fraud, trying to take away homes from 30 families for selfish gain. She even created a 40-slide presentation, complete with polished photos of neighborhood improvements, sincere endorsements from residents about their dream homes, and what appeared to be authentic property documents validating her authority once and for all. The meeting commenced exactly as Jennifer expected, with her positioned confidently at the front of the crowded room, embodying the role of a concerned community advocate. "Fighting for her community, ladies and gentlemen," she started with practiced confidence. "We are gathered here tonight because someone is attempting to ruin everything we have built together. For 8 years, we have created something unique. A neighborhood where families grow, children play safely, and neighbors care for one another. Now, we face a threat from someone who believes he can simply stroll in with forged documents and take our homes." The audience softly agreed, and I noticed Jennifer had captured their full attention. She displayed pictures of children enjoying the local park she had developed, emphasized the significant financial commitment every family made to their properties, and showed what appeared to be authentic property papers, including surveys, utility, contracts, and even city approval letters. For the first 30 minutes, she had the crowd completely captivated. In this story, I was clearly the antagonist, the outsider trying to destroy their peaceful community for profit. "This man," she said, pointing directly at me, is banking on us being too scared of his fancy legal documents to take a stand, but we will not let him triumph. Then Jennifer made a critical error. She opened the floor for questions, confident her neighbors would unite behind her and demand I leave. Instead, I stood up and politely asked for the chance to share a few important facts everyone needed to hear before making any decisions. Before any decisions were made regarding their legal rights, Jennifer's lawyer immediately objected, claiming that I had no authority to speak at the meeting. However, the homeowners themselves insisted they wanted to hear my side of the story. After all, if I was truly a fraud, my own evidence would expose me. I walked to the front of the room carrying 3 boxes of documents and began with a straightforward question. How many of you have seen the original property deed for the land where your houses stand? Not a single hand was raised. Then I presented the original property deed from 1953, when my grandfather purchased the entire 5-hectare tract from the county, accompanied by detailed property survey maps, clearly outlining the boundaries that included every single house in Sunset Hills. The atmosphere started to tense up when I revealed county records showing continuous property tax payments by my family for over 70 years, including payments made just 6 months earlier by my late father. The mood in the room changed drastically when I produced the building permit records, or rather, the complete lack of any such records. As a former city inspector, I explained that I had personally reviewed every permit application submitted in this area over the past 10 years, and I could say with absolute certainty that not one application had ever been filed for any construction in Sunset Hills, not for houses, roads, utilities, nor the community center. Sitting here in this moment, I let that truth sink in before moving forward. There are now 30 homes, paved streets, and a full utilities system, all constructed without a single permit, inspection, or any legal authorization from government officials. But the real shock came when I introduced Andrew Morrison as my witness. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, "I want you to hear from someone who knows the real story behind how this community was built." Andrew stood up slowly, his face pale but resolute, and walked to the front of the room. The look of disbelief on Jennifer's face was priceless. Her own husband was about to expose her lies in front of everyone she had deceived for 8 years. "My name is Andrew Morrison," he began with a slightly trembling voice. "I am a licensed civil engineer and have been Jennifer's husband for the last 3 years. I have been observing my wife run what I now understand to be an illegal real estate development scheme. I kept records because I knew this moment would come." He opened his briefcase and revealed a thick folder containing contracts proving Jennifer had been selling lots for prices between $80,000 and $120,000 each, generating more than $3 million in income from land she does not own. She has been operating under several business names, advertising in real estate magazines, and even collaborating with mortgage firms to assist families in obtaining loans for houses built on unlawfully subdivided property. The room burst into shocked whispers as everyone realized they had been victims of a fraud. Instead of legitimate property owners, Andrew was not done yet. Jennifer had not simply made a mistake. She had been running an elaborate real estate fraud scheme for 8 years. She executed it so flawlessly that even I failed to grasp the entire extent until recently. She fabricated fake property surveys, forged utility easements, and even created community bylaws without any legal standing. She convinced all of you that you were purchasing legitimate homes in an official community, but the reality is that none of it should have existed. Jennifer's carefully built story completely unraveled when I played the recorded conversation where she tried to bribe Michael Torres into ignoring the paperwork problems with Sunset Hills. Michael had secretly recorded the conversation, and Jennifer's own voice asking, "How much would it cost to make this issue vanish permanently?" was heard clearly through the community center's sound system. Her recorded words continued, "I can make it worth your while." We are talking about a significant amount of money, and I am sure we can reach an agreement that benefits everyone." What followed felt like watching a fragile structure collapse slowly, but with the added intensity of federal agents stepping in. During the community meeting, within hours, Jennifer was arrested by FBI officers facing charges that included wire fraud, mail fraud, real estate fraud, tax evasion, bribery of a public official, and running an unlicensed real estate operation. When it came to conducting business beyond state borders, the federal authorities stepped in because Jennifer had used interstate banking networks, postal services, and even internet marketing to carry out her fraudulent plan. This escalation transformed the matter into a federal case, carrying the possibility of a prison sentence of up to 20 years. Michael's empire in Sunset Hills collapsed overnight, but the 30 families who had purchased homes in good faith found themselves trapped in a disturbing legal uncertainty. They had invested their life savings in houses they did not officially own, built on land that was legally mine. This was the moment when the situation could have turned into a disaster for everyone involved, with families losing their homes and savings as I exercised my legal right to remove occupants from property unknowingly acquired from a criminal. However, through my experience as a building inspector, I had come to understand something vital. Behind every fraud case are real individuals whose lives are shattered by the greed of others, and those people deserve justice, not additional suffering. These 30 families were neither criminals nor conspirators. They were diligent people who had been systematically deceived by Jennifer's intricate scam, and they deserved protection, not punishment for her wrongdoing. Untangling Jennifer's fraud through the legal system took almost 18 months and demanded a team of lawyers, accountants, and federal agents to unravel the tangled network of forged documents, falsified agreements, and concealed assets she had created. Federal investigators uncovered that Jennifer's scheme was even more extensive than initially believed. The situation proved far more complex than anyone first assumed. Jennifer had concealed the funds from her unlawful land sales in several bank accounts spread across 3 states. She used these earnings to acquire a lavish vacation residence in Florida and was even actively negotiating to grow her scheme by targeting other rural properties within the county. Jennifer had established a web of shell companies, counterfeit business permits, and forged government paperwork that made her enterprise appear legitimate to banks, insurance firms, and some government officials. The most astonishing revelation was Jennifer's secret plan to vanish entirely once she sold enough plots to finance her retirement. Investigators uncovered meticulous strategies for selling the Florida house, cashing out her hidden wealth, and relocating to a nation that does not have extradition agreements with the United States. She was methodically erasing evidence, moving funds to offshore accounts, and preparing false identification papers for herself and Andrew. However, Andrew was unaware of this escape scheme and was as stunned as everyone else to discover his wife's criminal designs. Collaborating with Sarah Kim and a team of real estate lawyers, I spent half a year creating a plan that would protect innocent families while making sure justice prevailed. Families who had already paid Jennifer between $80,000 and $120,000 for their lots would only need to contribute an extra $15,000 to $25,000 to secure their properties. Legitimate actions were taken to bring the homes up to current building standards. It was not a perfect fix, but it was fair and lawful, ensuring that honest people would not lose their houses because of one woman's wrongdoing. Andrew Morrison emerged as an unexpected hero in rebuilding the neighborhood, applying his engineering skills to manage the enormous task of upgrading all 30 homes to proper building codes and making certain that utilities were legally connected and installed safely. The homeowners selected him as the president of a newly formed legitimate HOA. And together they established transparent bylaws with strict accountability measures and regular financial audits. Andrew also played a key role by giving important testimony in Jennifer's federal trial, helping prosecutors demonstrate the scale and complexity of her fraudulent scheme. The renewal of Sunset Hills became a model for how communities can bounce back from large-scale fraud while safeguarding innocent victims. Using funds from lawful land sales and a matching grant from the county, the Mitchell Community Development Foundation was created, establishing a permanent fund to assist rural areas in developing safely and legally. The foundation offers free advice to help people avoid scams like Jennifer's, provides low-interest loans for families needing to upgrade illegally built homes to meet codes, and collaborates with local authorities to detect and stop illegal development plans before they affect innocent residents. Taryn Morrison eventually received a sentence of 12 years in federal prison and was required to compensate her victims fully, including covering the expenses to bring all 30 homes up to code and paying for the legal fees families had to incur to defend their rights. She lost her house, her savings, her freedom, and her reputation, but most importantly, she lost the influence she had used to manipulate and control people for nearly 10 years. The families she had wronged have not only recovered, but have flourished, building the kind of genuine and legally sound community that Jennifer only pretended to create through deception and fraud. Today, if you visit Sunset, you will see that every year the community hosts the Sunset Hills Justice Festival, celebrating not only the homes and families, but also the principle that the strongest communities stand on honesty, openness, and respect for the law. Reflecting on this whole journey, I understand it revealed something deep about the true essence of justice. Real justice is not about destroying your enemies or seeking revenge against those who harm you. It is about constructing something better and more honest from the ruins they leave behind. Heron tried to ruin my family's heritage and harm innocent families along the way, but ultimately her wrongdoings helped me build something my grandfather could never have dreamed of: a thriving and lawful community where 30 families have learned that the best neighborhoods are founded on truth, collaboration, and sincere admiration for both the law and one's neighbor.